Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from new cartographer 5381 from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit, and it says, Am I the Arsehole Here for giving my husband an ultimatum? My husband and I, male 28, female 30, met at university and have been married for 4 years. Over the past 2 years, my husband has been sending monthly, sometimes even weekly, sums of money to his younger sister to allow her to pursue her dreams. For context, my husband's sister dropped out of uni 2 years ago because she felt it wasn't good for her and has been bouncing from fantasy to fantasy in trying to find what she is passionate about and good at. These sums of money have been increasing, and I feel uncomfortable with us giving so much money to someone, even if it is his family member. I raised and have been raising the issue with him, but he can't find it in himself to deny his sister. He'll start to come around to my point of view, but the moment he speaks to her, he surrenders all over again. More immediately, last weekend, I gave my husband an ultimatum that he either stopped giving money to his sister or I'd have to seriously consider our marriage. He did not react well and said that he wasn't going to be selfish when we had so much money to spare. I told him this wasn't about the money, but about setting boundaries with his family. Unfortunately, he refused to listen and said that he wanted to help his sister achieve her dreams. This is the first big fight we've had in years, but I don't think I'm in the wrong. So, am I the arsehole here? Edit. Would it be relevant to know the amount? So, as always, people were asking questions in the comments. The first one said, this is a fundamental difference in finances. If you feel so strongly about it, then you know what you need to do and follow through. Not the arsehole. Commenter replies to that saying, facts. If money convos turn into a war every time, it's past the fix it, we can talk stage. Follow through, OP. OP says, I don't want to suggest that we have money disagreements. That's why this seems particularly surprising. Commenter says, how are the finances set up? Do you share an account that this is coming from, and do both of you work? Or does he earn and manage all the finances? OP says we both work and have a joint account. The money goes from that account. Commenter says not the arsehole. I'm curious to know, OP. How are his parents like? What's their situation? Did your husband act like the father figure to his sister their whole life? Did their parents spoil them? I'm assuming she's probably in her 20s. She's an adult capable of getting a job. Most content creators have a job on top of their content. It doesn't make sense why he's sending her money. I think your husband fails to realize you are now his immediate family, not his sister. There shouldn't be handouts to someone in their 20s. If college isn't for her, fine. She can perfectly go get a full-time job like the rest of us. OP says his parents are dead and have been for some time. My husband paid for her uni bills, which we decided on together. I just don't think he can stand to hurt her, or anyone for that matter. In personal matters, he can be very placating. Commenter says, I see OP. Your husband seems to be a people pleaser. I myself can be guilty of that. It's either good or bad. It really depends what the extent of one's willing to please. Given that their parents passed away, I'm sorry to hear that. Sounds like the sister may still be hurting from their passing, and your husband's trying to support her with life / make her feel better about it. I'd bring the subject up lightly since it seems like your husband feels the responsibility of being a parent since their parents are no longer with us. You aren't in the wrong though, OP. Your husband just needs some redirection. You got this. OP says, I think it may be a reflection on us not being able to have children ourselves, but maybe my amateur psychology isn't the way to go here. Commenter says, I see in one of your comments that their parents are dead, which could put a different light on things. How much is he giving her on average? Also, what are your individual salaries? OP says he makes significantly more than me. Last year amounted to around £240,000, while I made around £90,000. He's given close to $2,500 to $3,000 a month. Commenter says, are you serious about this ultimatum? Are you seriously going to divorce over this? If you were just threatening, it's never a good idea because now you've shown that you are not serious. If you decide to walk away, I would not blame you. He's given away about 10% of your joint money to his sister against your wishes. We made a rule that if my husband's sister wanted money, she had to ask both myself and him. Now she has to convince me she has a plan for the money and was going to spend it wisely. She needs to understand it's no longer just big brother money. His money now belongs to you too. You guys can come up with a reasonable conditions for the money. 1 career change per calendar year. A yearly financial cap. A monthly financial cap. Whatever number or condition you both can live with, and stick to it. Opie replied saying, "This is the solution I'm leaning towards, thank you." Another commenter says, "This is a very subjective and nuanced following her dreams, bouncing from fantasy to fantasy, etc. Are these your words, his, hers? Are her interests and jobs really that impractical? The amounts of money kind of matter, honestly. How much you have to spare, how much is being given, the rate of increase, the frequency, your plans for the future, all of it. A lot of people are saying he's not respecting your boundaries and he doesn't get to decide what to do with money. Well, guess what? It works both ways. He's not obligated to just conform to whatever you feel is in everyone's best interest, and you can't just decide that he can't help out a family member because it makes you uncomfortable. And he doesn't get to go spending money on whatever he thinks is appropriate either. This is marriage. People don't always see eye to eye, and there are disagreements on things, finances included. This doesn't mean he doesn't respect you or you don't respect him, etc. There just needs to be the love and respect to be able to work out some sort of compromise. And at the end of the day, if something is truly a deal breaker, either of you are free to move on from this. Is he denying you of anything financially? Is this lack of money keeping you from living the life you want to live? Can you set a limit on the amount or frequency? If this is all out of principle and the amount of money isn't impacting you, I'd reconsider these ultimatums. There are other avenues you can take before having him choose between his sister and his wife. He's helping family, and it's not putting you in any kind of position. Opie says the editorializing about fantasy to fantasy was my words. As mentioned above, the amount of money last year amounted to around £30,000, and she is currently attempting to become a musician after becoming delusioned with acting. The money is not having any discernible impact on our livelihood. Someone says, what are the sisters' dreams? Any progress made? Opie says they vary. She is currently pursuing a career in music after a stint in acting. And one more commenter says, ask him what exactly is it paying for? Education or clothes or travel? Opie says, as far as I'm aware, it's expenses in general. House bills. She's living in their parents' house, which they inherited. Food, travel, and so on. Sometimes she'll ask for extra if a particular career-related expense arises. It's difficult for me on this one, and it's like a proper minefield. Like, from my perspective, if one of my brothers was struggling and I had the means to do so, I would want to help. But, if I was in a marriage at the same time, shared finances, joint account, I'd be having that conversation and making some kind of plan at the same time. What can we afford? What is acceptable, etc. And I wonder if there is some kind of guilt because of the dead parents and, he wants his sister to exceed. And again, I wonder if she's exploiting that. There's just so many little angles here, because it also feels like the sister's just bouncing between careers because she's never had to face any real consequences. Why would you commit when you're getting paid $3,000 a month? And it doesn't sound like OP's totally against it, just worried about where this is going to go in the future because it seems to slowly be increasing. There's no end goal. It's going to be interesting to see where this conversation actually goes in the end, if they have a conversation, of course, because some of the comments were all over the place. Some people were just saying walk, other people were saying have that discussion. Some people suspecting the sister is, exploiting the brother. But 3.5 weeks later, OP did come in with an update and says, so following some of your advice, I had a long conversation with my husband and raised the possibility of having shared accounts in addition to a joint household account. He was open to the idea, but again resisted reducing/stopping the transfers of money. Again, following the advice I clearly outlined while I was uncomfortable in a calm way. He became increasingly nervous and eventually fell silent. At the end, he said that I needed to talk to his sister if I wanted to fully understand everything. She came over to our house and explained everything. Apparently their parents were not the best even when they were alive. She now blames my husband for ruining her childhood because they were constantly being compared, and she was dismissed in favor of him as her interests were less orthodox. She views this money as compensation for the emotional abuse she suffered from their parents. I asked her if my husband had directly said or done anything to her at that time, and she said that wasn't relevant because what he was doing provided their parents with the opportunity to put her down. I want to say that I very much sympathize with her, but it still did not convince me that we needed to send our money. When I later raised it with my husband, he expected me to understand his actions and was very shocked when I still advised us against sending the money. He has apparently been harboring this guilt for many years and did not tell me earlier as he was scared. Wrongly so, I think less of him. To be honest, while I'm sure it is very painful for her, I don't see why my husband and me have to pay the price for his parents' wrongs. At any rate, we have at least temporarily stopped sending the money apart from still paying for utilities and necessities. I suspect we'll come to a compromise that involves a lump sum plus signing over their parents' house. Thank you for the advice. Commenter says to OP, so your sister-in-law is emotionally manipulating your husband even though he did absolutely nothing, and he's falling for it. Good luck with that. Do not have children with this man. He's in no way equipped to handle it. OP says, I honestly think it's something they've both simply accepted for a very long time. Commenter says, I wouldn't even adopt a fish with this man. He's putting his sister first before you and your relationship. If something happened to him financially or otherwise, would she drop everything to support him like he's done for her? Or even give emotional support? OP says, I always thought they had a close relationship. Less close than I thought, evidently. Someone says, has OP suggested therapy to her husband? OP says, I'm afraid he wouldn't be especially conducive to therapy. Not consciously, that is. OP on the house sister-in-law is living in and says it was jointly inherited by my husband and sister. Commenter says, info. Has sister-in-law ever had a long-term relationship? See where I'm going with this? OP says not to my knowledge, but in fairness, I'm not the authority on her personal life. Commenter says, to be honest, based off her behavior now, I'm truly wondering if she had a terrible childhood, or if she just felt like her parents should have coddled her more than they did. The fact that she's saying that his behavior is not relevant leads me to believe that she's exaggerating in order to make your husband feel guilty. OP says by all accounts, their parents were very disappointed with her through most of her later youth. I do think they were at the very least emotionally neglecting. Commenter says Sis has him believing he owes her restitution for some maybe favoritism during childhood. Sounds like they both could use therapy. OP says I don't think it was favoritism. They're very exacting parents who had very specific demands of their children. Commenter says, tell hubby that if he feels guilty, he can pay for therapy, but anything else is emotional blackmail. First, he was emotionally abused by his parents and now by his sister. Ask him why his parents' choices were his responsibility. I'm afraid an ultimatum is going to be the only way to get a resolution on this. OP says we've been paying for a therapy alongside other costs for some years now. Someone asks, was OP's husband the golden child? OP says from what I know, there seems to have been a cocktail of emotional neglect and negative comparison making. Commenter says, does OP's husband have his sister as a beneficiary under a life insurance plan? And OP says no. Bloody hell, that one took a turn, right? I wasn't expecting that in the end. And look, it's sad what happened to the sister. Being the less favored child, is that fair to say, to these parents must have been genuinely damaging. She must have trauma from it, but she's turned that childhood trauma into a monthly paycheck now from her brother, and that's not okay. And it kind of feels like it's just transferring the abuse. And I'd imagine, and I don't fully know obviously, but your husband survived those parents too, just in a different way. And I do have to question if a lump sum and transfer in house, which I don't think is a good idea, but if that would actually work anyway. Because sure, you could put boundaries for it that say, and that will be it. But is he going to waver again? Most likely. I think it'd take a long time to get rid of the guilt that he's feeling. But what do you guys make of this situation? How do you think you would deal with it if you was in that situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, before we do get into our next story, there is a trigger warning on it of ableism within the story, so if you do want to skip it, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you very much. It's from Technical Message 8716, and it says, am I the arsehole here for telling my girlfriend to be quiet in a museum? Background: I, 25 male, was invited to go on vacation for a week with my girlfriend, 22 female, and her family. mother, father, brother, and his fiancée. I don't know what exactly her dad's issues are, but he's obviously got some sort of intellectual disability. During our vacation, we've stopped at a few museums and historical sites. Every single time my girlfriend wants her dad to walk with us. At first I was fine with it, but then I realized he can't read. At every stop my girlfriend is narrating everything for her dad. He's half deaf too, so she's either leaned right in close to him or speaking loudly so he can hear. Not only can he not read or hear, he hardly understands what is being read to him, so my girlfriend has to repeat half of it in simpler terms for him to get. I'm a fast reader, so I'll be ahead of them, but hearing my girlfriend yell out what I just read 3 minutes ago. Followed by her dad saying, "What's that mean?" And her spending another 10 minutes explaining what she literally just read and him still not getting it. This is why museums with narrated tours give them through headsets. I'm sure it disrupts other visitors as well. Which is why when we stopped today, I asked her not to narrate everything. She said she had to for her dad. I suggested he'd just get as much out of looking at the artifacts and pictures since he doesn't understand half of what's going on anyway. Then she says that's not true. He loves learning. He especially enjoys historical facts. Like, come on now. He has to be honestly reminded if a museum is interactive or not because he will try to touch anything and everything. That's his mental functioning level. I told her it's disrespectful and kind of obnoxious to other visitors for her to be talking out loud constantly while people are trying to absorb what they are reading. After a bit of back and forth, she told me I could walk way ahead of them so I don't get distracted, but she was going to read to her dad. Then at lunch I thought she was past it since everyone seemed to be in a good mood, but when she sat down to eat, she made a jab that no one should talk so I don't get too distracted while I'm trying to eat. She's still pissed obviously, and now so am I. That felt totally out of line. Am I the arsehole? I go to when I can and been to lots of museums in the past. And if I saw someone explaining to another family member, patiently explaining things to someone with a disability, I'd just be thinking, that's lovely, good on them, not how annoying. And your suggestion, he'd just get much out of looking at the artifacts because he doesn't understand anyway, is ableist, and I can understand why the trigger warning was on there now. You agreed on the family vacation. This is how a family operates. They include everyone and accommodate each other at the same time, which is absolutely lovely. And to be quite frank, you said that shit to me, you would have been done on the spot. Allergy Mum says you're the arsehole. Ableist much? What would have been a reasonable question to ask is, hey, the museum offers headsets and audio accessible aids. Would that help all of us enjoy the museum together? Parents age. Parents need support when enjoying family time. It's cool and you all enjoy your speed reading and rushing along, but this was a family vacation for her family. And you treated her father like an inconvenience on their family trip that you were invited to join. Anyone of any ability deserves to enjoy learning and exploring museums at their own pace. Most museums have special aids to support people with different abilities. Most museums aren't silent as the tomb nowadays. Art museums still have that feel, but most history and other museums are much more interactive and inclusive. I doubt your relationship will survive how callously you treated her father. Opie says, I never said this in front of her dad, obviously. I said it in a private conversation with her, letting her know that it may have been seen as disruptive and she should be respectful of everyone. Then she brought it to the attention of her family with that jab at lunch. But I really struggle with distractions when reading due to ADHD. I didn't say this to her, but technically her accommodating her dad the way she does the opposite for me, who also has a disability. And that could be the same for others. Commenter says, do you think insulting her dad was respectful? Opie says, how did I insult him? I never said anything to him about it, and it's not like I said he was an idiot. I just suggested that since he doesn't understand, it'd be better to just let him enjoy looking so it doesn't disrupt the whole museum. Impossible says, being ableist only in front of your girlfriend and not her dad isn't the fleck you think it is. Opie says, if that's ableist, how is it also not ableist for her to bring attention to my ADHD struggles with a little jab at lunch? Oh, don't talk while Opie is eating, he might get too distracted. On the same topic, what if I said was so offensive, why bring it up around her family at all? If her dad is to be hurt by it, it's because she brought it to him with that. Maybe she's not the saint everyone here seems to assume. Langstar replies saying, why are you dating her if you don't like her? Opie says, I do like her. I'm just confused at all the comments acting like she was an entirely innocent and passive party in this disagreement. Like if her dad was hurt by what I said, there's only one person the rest of her family could have heard it from, and it wasn't me. Her jab at dinner makes it more likely he'd be hurt. If she was being nothing but kind and considerate, why make a comment in front of her family that raises suspicions on something having been said? That's not very kind of her. Minx the Tiger says you're the arsehole for being super disrespectful to her about her dad. Hope she kicks you to the curb. Opie says, well, then you and everyone else will be real fucking happy. For fuck's sake, sorry I didn't approach what was meant to be a private conversation with my girlfriend about my feelings and comfort perfectly. I never meant to offend her or her father, and I'm actually sorry that I did. I never called him an idiot or stupid because unlike what everyone thinks, I don't think that way about him. When he'd say that shit about himself, I'd hear my girlfriend shoot it down and tell him there's lots of things he's good at, and lots of different types of intelligences. I just really thought based on what I saw that maybe auditory learning wasn't one of his strengths and he'd enjoy visual learning more. Minx replies saying you implied he was an idiot in your post. And that was bad enough. Your attitude sucks. Get over yourself. Alchemiyali says, you don't even remotely sound sorry. You sound defensive and angry because literally everyone thinks you're wrong. It's because you are. Eat some humble pie and stop crying. Formulate a real, sincere apology and then give it to your girlfriend. She's still gonna dump you, but it'll at least make you a marginally better person. So OP came in with an update saying, everyone can stop commenting now. I get it, I'm the biggest arse of all time. I may as well be the devil for having a private conversation with my girlfriend. That she made public, so what's that make her? I admit I could have worded it better. I didn't mean to be offensive. I was trying to find a solution so that everyone could enjoy the museums. But apparently that's a big fucking no-no in a relationship. Thought they were about compromise and working through issues, but obviously not. You'll all be real fucking happy to hear my girlfriend broke up with me, so you all can stop with the I hope she dumps your ass. Congrats, you got your fucking wish. Years together down the drain over one incident. One stupid comment. Is that how fragile relationships are now? Are you all happy with that reality? And I'd imagine that update is why she broke up with him. That kind of attitude, not just the comment itself, although, you know, as I said, I'd have been done with that comment in itself. But the fact, instead of taking a step back and saying, you know, I'm just sorry, everything was like, I'm sorry, but what about what she did? And just saying everyone else is too sensitive, rather than recognizing you showed us something about your values. Gee, bloody whiz. But what do you guys make of this situation? Maybe you got a different take on the matter. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's have one more story. Now, our next story comes from a string of characters from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit. And it says, am I the arsehole here for telling a friend's boyfriend that he can't have a traditional wife because he's not a traditional man? Oh, dearie me. It starts, I, 25 female, was hanging with some friends and their significant others last week. To make a long story short, my friend's boyfriend kept talking about how women no longer want to be traditional wives, and that's why many of them are single. I responded that in 2025, women don't feel like they need a man in order to provide the lives they want for themselves. He kept going on about what women used to do and how they were all about taking care of their husbands and household without complaining. I let it go on for a while, but I got tired of hearing his rant and told him that he can't have a traditional wife when my friend goes 50-50 on all the bills with him and works more hours than he does. I continued with he isn't a traditional husband and can't provide for his household like he's supposed to, so that my friend can stay home and do all those traditional duties. I may have become the arsehole when I told him that it sounds like he wants another mummy and not a wife. It became silent, and he told me that my way of thinking proved his point. The conversation pivoted elsewhere, and I thought that was it. But I got a message from my friend saying that her boyfriend was upset at me for what I said and I embarrassed him. He wants me to apologize, but I don't think that I should have to, being as though I was responding to his rant about traditional women. My friend said she doesn't think I'm wrong, but doesn't think I'm right either, and I should have just let him talk because he had a few drinks. Am I the arsehole here? Oof, I wonder what he's been listening to recently, but no, absolutely not the arsehole in my opinion. You just called it out. He's He's not providing like a, air quotes, traditional man. So why should she serve like a traditional wife? And you know, being drunk isn't just like a free pass to spout your bullshit about how women should act. And basically, he's just embarrassed because you exposed him. Your mate who's working more hours than him while splitting bills 50-50 and listening to his rants about traditional wives is taking the piss. I wouldn't be apologizing for that nonsense. But Witty Stock says not the arsehole, but the mummy comment was a miss. It allowed him to bypass the actual important point, which is that if you want a traditional wife, you got to be able to financially provide for one. You said that too, but he got to brush it off by focusing on the mummy insult, making the winning point and stop. Opie says, I can see that. I think that I was a bit fed up with what he was saying. It's almost as if he wanted to get a reaction out of us, and unfortunately, I fell for it. Haunted Gloomy Hound says, you're not an arsehole, albeit you seem really invested in him, even though you're not in a relationship with him and never have to see him again. If he wants that type of woman and your friend wants that also, who cares? Let them be moronic adults. He can't handle his liquor, she can't handle him, and you can't handle solitude. Everyone just chill the fuck out. Opie says, interesting. She's my friend and she talks about her relationship to our friend group. I don't think it's a problem whatsoever that they split the bills, but I have a problem with his flawed thinking. Thanks nonetheless for your opinion though. Maggie says, cue him running to the red pill site to say what an injustice he suffered. Opie says, he loves a good video from that particular person. I'm not going to mention it because otherwise it might end up on your timeline. Internal Sound says, why are you friends with this man-child? It sounds like he exchanged his brain for a handful of Tootsie Rolls. I got screwed by no takebacks. There are more thoughtful and less misogynistic fish in the sea. I promise. Opie says, to be honest, he's not my friend. He unfortunately dates my friend. The guy is a douche, but we accept him for her. But that seems to be a done deal now. Chard says, where was your husband when all of this was being said? Opie says, I'm not married. My boyfriend was at work, which is actually funny to me when I think about the situation. Opie comes in with their update and says, I called my friend to try and understand why her boyfriend was embarrassed and why she was trying to be Switzerland in this situation. She explained that I'm her friend, and although she doesn't disagree with what I said, she feels like she needs to have her man's back as well. I told her that she doesn't have my back by asking me to apologize to him and not standing up for me, at the very least telling him that what he was saying was idiotic. We talked for an hour, and I actually feel like it didn't get anywhere. I told her that I would not apologize and that he can't come around me anymore, and she was very upset with that statement. I feel like I lost a close friend, and that hurts a lot, but I will not be disrespected. Sorry, this isn't some juicy stuff, but I wanted to update everyone on how the situation ended. Fearless Yam says, not the arsehole. I can't believe a man would sit there and talk shit about the woman he's with by trashing her contributions to their relationship. And she's up there defending him and attacking you for hurting his poor baby fifis. Unbelievable. You're 100% right. I hope his SO finds some self-esteem and leaves to find a man who respects her and appreciates her contributions to the relationship. Wonderful Band says, you nailed it with him needing a mummy, and it was confirmed when mummy called and told you to apologize to him because you hurt his wee feelings. That fella needs to grow up and confront himself if he needs to. Also, if he's demanding a trad partner, then he absolutely has to play his part too. Otherwise, he is absolutely looking for another mummy. All these idiots acting like they're a prize while still teething. Ridiculous. God help your friend. Kind of a sad situation in the end. Don't blame OP one bit for their reaction to all this, but from like a friend's perspective, I wonder what she's being told in the background, you know, just the way she defended him and said, you know, I need to have my man's back in this. It just made me feel a bit icky, to be quite honest. But what do you guys make of this situation? How do you feel about it? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Yeah, man, I remember being so naive when life was good, weather and palm trees. Back in the day, you were everything I need. But But then along came a time when you crushed my dreams. Oh yeah, you played me like a fool when you made me believe that the line between love wasn't thick enough to read. Oh yeah, you see we in despair, crime everywhere. You're selling false hope cause you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care. You just don't, still sell.